Hello, hello, hello. I am Remy.
And I am Adisa.
And we're going to be running your workshop today. And we're really, really looking forward to working with you and coming up with some great stuff. Before we get started, though, we've got to leave some time for the schools to join us and for everyone to get ready. We're joined by schools all over the country.
Up and down the country.
So what we've done is we've come up with some photos and a prompt, a kind of question to get your brains whirring and thinking whilst we wait for the other schools to join us. So you've got 2 minutes to have a look at the question on the board and think about what answer you might come up with. And one last thing, just about housekeeping. If you ever hear me or Adisa say the word Padlet, we're referring to this interactive whiteboard where we're going to get your responses and interact with the things that you've come up with throughout the workshop.
And to access the Padlet, it's really simple. Just click the link down below. And once you're inside the Padlet, click anywhere on the screen to leave your post, to leave your messages. Great stuff.
So we'll give you 2 minutes for that prompt and we'll be back in a moment. Hello, hello, hello.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, and we're really looking forward to this workshop. So as I said before, my name is Remy, I'm a poet.
And my name's Adisa, and I'm also a poet.
And we're going to be with you today for about 50 minutes working on this Black History workshop. And Adisa is now going to tell us what we're actually going to be doing in this session.
Today, we're going to learn about an architect called David Adjay and a visual artist called Yinka Shonibari. Now, these two amazing creators tap into their African ancestry, their African heritage to create their works. And what we're going to do is look at some of their work and how it's been inspired by their past. And then we're going to look at your cultural references, what makes you who you are, what's your history, what's your heritage, and then create poetry out of that. So it should be very exciting.
All of that in quite a short space of time, so we're going to be working really well together. One thing we wanted to say before we kick off is obviously this workshop is a Black History workshop. It's October, it's Black History Month, but we really believe that we should be learning about different Black people throughout history, throughout the whole year, so
Absolutely.
Not just in a specific month.
Absolutely.
And we really, really hope that this, if it's your first experience learning about these people, will be the beginning of your kind of learning journey, and that you keep looking through and finding new other people of African heritage and Black people to discover in your learning journey.
I think it's really important because the more you look into Black history, you realise how much we have in common, how much British history is linked to African history. They're intertwined, and the more you look, the more you'll find out. So it's really important you keep looking. Great.
Absolutely spot on. So we're going to go now to that photo and that question that we asked. So we put these two pictures up and we said, what do these two have in common? And we've got loads of different answers on our Padlet. So I'm going to read out a couple.
Read a few out.
Yeah. Some of them, here's one that says they are both pieces of art. Fantastic. What else have we got? St. Ursula's Convent says they are unique.
Yeah,
they are both cultural. We've got some really lovely ones here. They are both created by people with an African heritage, someone
Wow,
says.
someone picked up on the African heritage. Brilliant.
Absolutely spot on. And somebody else said both of them are brightly coloured. So we're going to end the suspense and we're going to tell you what these two things have in common. Why don't we talk first about the image on the left?
Yeah, so the building is the Smithsonian African American National Museum of History and Culture, based in Washington, D.C., in the United States of America. It's an amazing building, and it's actually a stone's throw away from the White House. It's on the same platform area as the White House, so it has major prominence in America. And it was designed by David Adjay.
And one thing about that building, and Adis is going to tell us a little bit more in a second, is the kind of the metalwork and the way that it looks a little bit like cloth. I'll go to my picture that I chose on the right, where you can see this person dressed in really, really colourful outfit. And that cloth is called batik cloth, that is really popular in West Africa. So we start to see, if you tell us a little bit about the overall idea of the building.
If you look at Adjay's wonderful museum and you look at the exterior of the building, it's almost like the building is being draped by an African material, an African cloth. The way he's made these intricate designs, it's almost like it's got its own patterns and designs like clothing you might wear. It's really beautiful.
So somebody already told us on the Padlet, these are made by two people of African heritage. You're completely right.
Yeah.
And then to go even further, it's this idea of cloth and African heritage in the actual material that is also something that brings these two together. So tell us what we're going to be doing throughout this workshop.
So today, we're going to look at two creators who use their art form, who are inspired by their African ancestry, their African history, to create their work. And then we're going to look at the impact their work has had in the wider society. And then we're going to get you guys to actually turn that into amazing poetry. So let's start the journey. Let's find out about Yinka.
So the first artist we're looking at is Yinka Shonibare, and he's responsible for the fantastic figure you see in that colourful dress on the right. So Yinka Shonibare was born in London in 1962. He's British Nigerian, and he went back to Nigeria with his family in Lagos when he was young. However, he came back to London to study fine art in his teenage years. He contracted a virus which meant that he was paralysed from some part of his body. However, he was able to continue his studies and has gone on to be a world-renowned artist. So he's known in lots of different countries and he has exhibits in galleries all over the world. Yinka's work spans lots of different kind of art forms. He creates films, installations, paintings, sculptures. He's really diverse and likes to touch on lots of different ways of expressing himself. However, one thing that really pins down his artwork is what he's most interested in. And that's the ways that Western identities and African identities overlap and intertwine. And this is where the batik cloth comes in. So as you saw in that first image, batik cloth is this really colourful material that's popular in a lot of West African countries. It was thought to have originated in West Africa, but since those kind of early thoughts, we now know that actually batik comes from Indonesia all the way over in the east part of the world. And it was actually brought over to West Africa by Dutch colonists in the 19th century. So we've got Dutch, West African, and Indonesian. And so the reason that Yinka Shonibari uses batik cloth is not only to talk about his own West African heritage, but also the different ways that our cultures are actually intermingled and very intertwined together. And this is a quote that he says, which I think is perfect and really sums up something interesting. People always want to categorize things. I'm more interested in the idea of a hybrid. So when we say that word hybrid, we're talking about the different ways that things are intermingled. And I want us to use this idea of the cloth to think about our own different heritages, what different cultures and histories are intermingled within us. And now this is where we get to the writing task. So if we take this idea of a cloth to explore and represent our own different cultural heritages, what happens? I want you to think about this question. If you were a piece of cloth, what would you look like? What colours might you use to represent yourself? What shapes, what textures, and what different parts of your own heritages, your parents, your grandparents, the place that you live, how might you be able to represent that? Adis is going to help us out by reading a couple of example sentences, and then we'll hand over to you.
So if I were to describe myself as a piece of cloth, it'd be something like this. I would be a piece of free-flowing material, full of yellows, blacks and greens, just like Jamaica. I would be covered in thin, sprawling lines, all the colours from the London Underground. My cloth would be adorned by a border of cowrie shells. I've got to get Ghana in there, can't leave Ghana out, big up Ghana. Yeah, that's what I'd be, except if I was a cloth.
I've just noticed, show us your hand up there. Does anyone see what that is? For those of us who don't know, that is a representation of a cowrie shell. I promise we didn't plan that. Adisa just happened to have one on. And just a little bit of a fact, cowrie shells used to be used as a kind of currency in West Africa. So people would gather them together, trade them for food, cattle, that kind of thing. So it's quite an important and symbolic kind of thing, definitely. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you some time to write 2 lines describing your cloth. And remember, you're using this to try and think about your heritage, the different parts of cultures and histories that you're made up of. And then we want to take some time and share your lines with your partner. So we're going to give you some time to do that now. Get your pens and your thinking minds going. Off you go. So we're back just to tell you that you have got 2 minutes left to complete this task and to encourage you to share any lines that you've come up with, any images of your cloth onto the Padlet so that we can see how you're doing. 2 minutes to go.
Welcome back.
We're back, and I'm smiling like this because I've had a look at some of the responses, and they're absolutely brilliant. I'm going to read this
Great.
one out from St. Ursula's. I would have the colours red, blue, white with yellow stars, and I would be soft because the colours are in my flag, the Philippines. So thank you so much to that person who shared that. We've got another one here.
Can I read it? Can I read it?
Sorry, you're right. Go for it.
Show me.
That one I think is great.
A free-flowing soft material with the colours blue and black, Sierra Leone.
Fantastic.
Yeah, big up Sierra Leone, yeah.
There's so many more, but because we've got a lot to get through, we're going to move on. But we really appreciate everyone sharing their pieces. So what are we going to go on to next?
I've got a challenge for you. In a moment, I'd like you to form a group of 2 or 3 students. Group up, and then I'd like you to complete this quote I'm about to give you. I'm going to give you half of the quotation, and I want you to think about how would that quote end. So you write down the first part, have a discussion with your group, and then add to it. How would the quote end? So you got your pen, got your paper. Let's make those groups now, and I'm going to give you your quote. Here's the quote. You ready? You only make a better future if you. I'll do that one more time. You only make a better future if you ... You've got to add to that, guys. You only make a better future if you complete that quote. How do you think that ends? Make it really inspiring. You've got 2 minutes.
We're back, and Adisa is engrossed in your different responses to this quote.
These are amazing. So I gave you the beginning of the quote, you only make a better future if, and we've got, if you let your light shine.
Oh!
That's good. I like that. Well done, St. Ursula's. Well done. What else we got? If you remember those who came before. That's brilliant. That's really brilliant. You only make a better future if you work together.
These are so inspiring.
Guys, you're on the money. You're on the money. Doing so well. Brilliant. Oh, that's so good.
Any more?
If you're proud of where you're coming from. Wow.
I feel inspired just hearing those. Let me put this back.
That's so good.
Fantastic.
So that quote, the complete quote, I'm going to give you the whole quote now. It's actually, you only make a better future if you question the past.
I feel like some people were kind of onto that with this
Touching
idea of who came before you. So you guys obviously tuned in to where we're going.
And that quote came from David Adjay, the person we're going to look at now, the architect. Now, David Adjay is a Ghanaian British architect who has become famous worldwide with his amazing architectural creations. He's designed buildings in Europe, in Africa, and all over the world. When David was young, his father was a diplomat, and that meant he traveled extensively in Africa and in the Middle East. And David says the traveling experience helped to shape his mind towards appreciating architecture and appreciating different types of architecture from different cultures. And that's influenced him a great deal. If we look back now at the Smithsonian African American Museum of History and Culture, the building we showed you at the beginning. And if we look closely at the exterior of the building, David has almost dressed the building in fine cloth. And David talks about tying into his African heritage and celebrating that in this building. And he does it so well. In a way, David talks of the importance of buildings having a voice, a statement, not a voice like you and I may have a voice, but making a statement, saying something to the community, standing there proud. I want us to try something. Our next poetry idea. So pens and papers ready. I want you to imagine you were a building. Why do I say this? We want to find out about your cultural heritage, where you're coming from, the languages you speak, your belief systems, traditions, foods that are eaten, things that celebrate who you are. Just like David ties into his heritage and puts it into his work, we want you to do exactly the same with this idea of if I were a building. So what I'd like you to do is respond to some questions, imagining that you were a physical building. So get your thinking caps on now. We're going to go into poetry world. All right, here we go. So I'm going to give you 45 seconds after each question. Are you ready?
Give me a second.
All right, you ready? Are you going to do the next one?
I'm going to take part. Okay.
Brilliant.
I'm ready.
Let's see how well Remy can do. So if you were a building, first thing, what would be the materials you'd use to build this building? What would you be made of? I mean, you could use bricks, you could use glass, steel, concrete, straw, mud, clay. It's endless. What would be the materials that you'd use to make your building to represent who you are and where you're coming from? Go. You've got 45 seconds. Brilliant, guys. We've got the materials down. What's your building made of? The second thing I'm interested in, how many floors are in your building? Is it a multi-story building depicting what goes on in your mind? You've got lots going on all jumbled up on different floors. Or is it just a single story building like a bungalow? Think about that. Yet again, representing who you are, your culture, your traditions. How many floors are in your building? And write a few lines around that. Write a few sentences about why you've chosen 2 floors or 13 floors or just no floors. Write a few lines about that. Go. Now, think about windows. How big are the windows? What shape are the windows? What color are the windows? Are they stained glass? Are they tinted? Are they completely crystal clear? Write a couple of sentences describing what the windows would look like in your building to reflect, yet again, your culture, your heritage, your values, where you live. You know, have a go. We've got the windows complete. We know what the windows look like.
But mine, I just wanted to get it off my chest.
Just had to get it in. Thank you.
No
Thank you,
worries.
Remy.
No worries.
Okay. Now, all buildings are built facing a particular direction. North, east, south, west. Think about this. Really think about this. Which direction does your building, you as a building, what do you face? You may say, well, I'm facing north because my grandma lives up north. Far up north, you know, she lives in Scotland or something, or she lives in the northern part of the country. You might say south, It's completely up to you, but think of a reason why you're choosing that direction. Have a go. Last one. David Adjay talks about buildings almost having a voice, having such a presence in a space that they're talking, but not in the language that you and I use, but just having a voice saying something. I want to ask you something. What's your voice? What do you want to say to the world as this building, representing your heritage and your culture? What would be the things you'd want to say? Write a few sentences about what would be the voice, the message you'd like to get across as this building standing in this community. Guys, I can't wait to hear what ideas you've got down. But now that you've got all those ideas, the materials, the floors, the windows, the direction you're facing, and what you want to say, we're going to put it all together and make our poem. Put all those lines together. Use similes, use metaphors, I'm standing north, facing like the sun. Use similes, use metaphors, make it come alive. Put all those ideas together. And when you've done it, put 2 of your best lines into the Padlet. So put your poem together now, and when it's complete and you're really happy with it, choose your 2 best lines and put that into the Padlet, and we'll feed it back to you.
If anyone's looking for any kind of inspiration, I'm just going to read something that we came up with in a moment. So just so that if you're a little bit lost, this might help you.
Okay.
If I were a building, my foundations would be built on love and run deep into the ground. My wooden walls would flex in the wind, but never break or disappear, like an icicle in the sun. If I were a building, I'd face the east and turn my back on the west. My honeycomb windows would let in light. My building's voice says, stand up for what's right.
Whoa, well done. Very good, very good.
Bit of inspiration for you there.
So, once you completed your poems, put it in the Padlet. See you in a bit. Guys, you're doing really, really well. You've got 2 minutes, just 2 minutes left. So work hard, complete that poem. Best 2 lines, put it in the Padlet. Welcome back, guys. Can't wait to have a look at some of these ideas on the Padlet. Just remember, we've got schools up and down the country tuned in to this workshop right now, so you're not alone, we're in this together.
Got to big up St. Ursula's. We've got so many different ones from you guys. Thank you so much. There are so many to pick from. I don't know where to start. Let's go with, I like this one. The doors shall open. Oh, someone else popped in and it moved. Interesting. I'll go to another one. If I were a building, I would be tall and broad, full of laughter and light. Thank you so much. We've got another one. The door shall open with unity. If I were a building, I would be made out of feathers. I like that idea of unity, and that's actually going to lead on well to what we're going to do next. Do you want to read a couple more before we move on?
If I were a building, I would be made of glass, hard and unbreakable. Wow, love that. If I were a building, I would be made of pizza dough because I'm from Italy with never-ending pepperoni floors. That's a good line. Never-ending pepperoni floors. I love that.
Brilliant. And if it gets really sunny, then I guess it would get cooked. I don't know. I need to think more about that image, but thank you so much. So lots of really creative ideas there. We're going to move on now. I can't believe I'm saying this already, to our final task. This is where we're going to be looking at a group poem. So far, you've imagined yourself as a building and taken some time to think about your own heritage and the different layers of your culture that make you up. And then that's what you've been using to think about the building. Now I want you to take one step further and imagine that there's a village or a city or a community that you make that is made up of all these different buildings, this kind of multicultural space where all of your different identities are living together. So once you've imagined that, I want you to think about what would this village stand for? With all these different identities and heritages there, what would be important to you? What would be at the foundation of your village? Yeah. What is the kind of ethos or, what's the word? The thing that you want to stand for.
Yes.
Adisa, can you give him a couple of examples?
Like, it could be, our village is built on care and courage. I mean, care and courage being really important to you. You value that. Freedom is the beating heart of our city. This town stands on the foundation of our grandparents. Our town stands for respecting each other's complex heritage. So that gives you a little taste of what you could possibly put into your poem about what's important to you as a community, as a village coming together, buildings coming together.
Fantastic. And as you're writing this group poem, you want to come up with a couple of these lines, but I also want you to use the work that you've done before. So think about the lines that you wrote about your building, and in your groups, you're going to be in groups of 3. See which lines you can bring together to try and construct this poem. So you're going to be doing 2 things, taking together your lines that you've already written and adding these new lines in about the village and the ethos that it stands for. We're going to hand over. You've got a little bit of time to do it. All the best of luck. We're back to tell you that you have 2 minutes left to complete this task. If you haven't already, please share your words with us. We've seen some great stuff, but we'd love to see more. 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Off you go.
We're back.
We're back and so happy to see you. The last phase of this is thinking about how you're going to perform this, how you're going to share it with your classmates. So you've written down some great lines, some great ideas. Maybe we can give you some couple of tips of how to bring it to life. What do you think?
So, yeah, absolutely. Think about your voice, trying to use your voice, projecting your voice in the class. You're not performing to one person, you're trying to send your voice throughout the class. Think about your posture, your body, the way you hold yourself. Yet again, you're kind of embodying being a village and how you stand as a village. So think about your voice and think about your posture.
And one last thing, you're in groups of 3, right? So think about how might you use your collective voice. Is there a line you want to say all together? Are different people going to speak at different times? Have a go and think about how you're going to bring this to life for the audiences in your classrooms. Best of luck.
We're back in.
We're back, and we're so delighted to have all these different kind of voices of our village, right? This has got a real sense of community. I'm going to read out this one because I think it's lovely. My village stands for unity and safety. My village stands for equality. The village is built on many broken glasses, fixed with the bondings of love and acceptance.
That's a really great line.
Totally.
Built on many broken glasses.
Do you want to go for it? Read another?
Yeah. Our village stands for unity in the community, peace and unconditional love, bright and amazing equality.
Fantastic. So many nice kind of ideas and foundations for what you want to build. I'm going to read absolutely one last one. Oh, this is a new one that's just come in. Under the carpet in a building's third floor, you'd expect to find dust and bad things more. But lifting the carpet, a radiant light shines. Colour, is moved. A radiant light shines. Generations of love, reminding of good times. Don't be afraid of dying, but be afraid of living with nothing to die for.
Wow, what a note.
That was a year 7 group poem. So impressive, fantastic.
Yeah. The rhyme scheme is brilliant as well.
I know. So we've come to the end of the workshop, which I can't believe we've just whizzed through so many different things. And I just want to say, we want to say a huge congratulations to you for all the different things we covered today. What did we go through? We covered so much.
Well, we learned about that brilliant architect, David Adjay and Yinka Shonibare. And we learned about how they use their African history and culture and heritage to influence their work. And then we looked at your history and your culture and your traditions, and we turned that into poetry. So it's been an amazing experience. I love that word hybrid, with merged worlds together. It's a wonderful word to leave you with, the hybrid. Yeah.
Thank you so much for all your energy. It's been amazing to connect with you over the Padlet and to feel like we've kind of made a community here in this workshop. So we hope you continue with your learning and have a fantastic rest of your day.
We salute you.
See you later.
Bye.